Is the TikTok bill nothing but a Trojan horse ending all freedom of speech in the USA? Today we're going to talk about our plan to overcome it. If you listen to the mainstream media, the TikTok bill before the U.S. Congress sounds like a pretty good idea, but it isn't. It's likely a Trojan horse carrying very dangerous stuff into our code of law in the appearance of helpful legislation. It sounds good because, it's going to eliminate an app that supposedly gathers information on U.S. citizens by a company associated with an aggressive foreign government. On the face of it, if that's true, it's not such a bad idea. But what if underneath all this is a bill that is a Trojan horse? What if it has some fine print in it that creates new laws that will end freedom of speech as we know it? Things that have nothing to do with TikTok. This is Bible teacher Nelson Walters, and I'm putting this out today before that kind of speech might be branded as, misinformation, disinformation from a foreign adversary. And I know that sounds crazy, I'm not some kind of foreign adversary, but that is what this bill appears to be able to do. And the timing of this bill, in our opinion, is also no accident. Happening before next fall. What happens next fall? The United Nations Summit for the Future. It's scheduled, and also an election. This bill and those two things we just mentioned are related in our opinion. So today, we're going to look at the bill and why it can eliminate free speech, what kind of ministries and news outlets it may affect, and what our ministry is planning to do now before that starts happening. And if you think the answer is just go on Rumble or X or some other source like that, think again, because those sources are likely to be shut down. But we will let you know what we're doing in just a few minutes. But first, for this teaching that exposes the Trojan horse, we need to thank Richard Longacre, a member of our community. This teaching is going to explain why our ministry will be taking this evasive action in the next couple months. So let's get started with the facts. H.R. Bill 7521, the so-called TikTok bill, passed the House on the 13th of March in 2024, and it's heading to the Senate probably very soon, and it's almost 100% assured of passage. When was the last time you saw a bill just zip through Congress like this with bipartisan support? Good question. But what you should ask is why this is a bill at all. The president, he could have banned TikTok a long time ago with an executive order or by declaring it a national emergency, a threat, to national security. He didn't do that. Why didn't the FCC make up a new policy and ban it that way? Why does this need to be a law? And why now? You need to ask yourself those two questions. So, they can add more to it maybe, instead of just getting rid of TikTok, huh? But funny, this bill contains no pork barrel spending or unnecessary spending. When was the last time a bill in the United States didn't contain needless spending? So why would that be? Why would this bill not have that in it? Maybe to make passage easier and limit debate. I think this is a bill they want passed and in a hurry. The bill itself is only 12 pages long. When was the last time you saw a 12-page bill? And again, 12 pages limits debate, makes it easier to pass. I happen to have read it all a couple times, actually. So I have to assume the U.S. congressmen and women have all read it too. At 12 pages, they have absolutely no excuse for not reading it. And if they vote for it, that means they agree with what's in it and what it says, even if it has the potential to remove your freedom of speech, which it does. The bill is intentionally vague, and it's very, very dangerous in our minds. So if that's true, what does that say about the U.S. Congress, who might pass it? The House of Representatives has already passed it. You can decide that for yourself. I've made up my decision about Congress a long time ago. In my opinion, this is just one more reason that I don't believe the electoral process is going to protect us from what's coming down on the world from the United Nations and the central bankers. We can vote for whoever we want, but it seems both sides of the aisle are invested in the UN and central banker process. And this fall, in the USA, all attention is going to be focused on that election in November. But after you listen to what's in this bill, just ask yourself, is that election actually going to solve any of your problems? In a nutshell, this bill will create massive financial penalties of $500 to $5,000 per prescriber or member for apps, businesses, websites that are listed as, quote, foreign adversary controlled applications. Let's say a group has 1 million members or subscribers. The one-time penalty enforced on them for not complying then could be like $5 billion. That's billion with a B. Multiply that by how many instances of noncompliance a company has, and you can see why every online app and website will have to comply with this act. And the penalty doesn't just apply to the website. Anyone hosting the internet for this app or website is guilty too. Anyone permitting the downloading of the app is guilty. So being labeled as a foreign adversary-controlled application is going to really be a problem if you do anything on the internet. You're basically out of business if you're labeled that way. And who makes that kind of decision? The Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the Attorney General, considering that the DOJ has been accused by some of being weaponized. How does this make you feel? Confident that fair decisions will be made? What are the criteria for someone getting that foreign adversary-controlled application label? Is it possible your favorite apps, websites, or news sources could be labeled this way and put out of business? Well, right now, although the Senate may change the law, only businesses with 1 million active users per month qualify. So you'll be wondering to yourself, hey, I'm watching this on the Nelson Walters channel. What about you, Nelson? What about the Nelson Walters channel? Well, in a good month, we get close to 1 million views, but we have never had 1 million separate users in any given month. But we're part of YouTube, and they get that in like 5 minutes. So it's likely that YouTube will make new guidelines to guarantee they don't get hit by these penalties. I mean, that's what any sound business would do. So even though we won't reach the 1 million user month level for probably quite a while, we're probably going to have to comply with some guidelines. And you can figure out what kind of guidelines those might be. However, this is really key. So listen up. The Last Day's Overcomer website that we own won't come anywhere close to this 1 million user a month threshold, at least not at this point. And part of our planned solution involves this private website. So keep watching, and we're going to explain in just a little bit because you're going to like it. There had to be some good news in this message, right? And that's what it's going to be. Now, what other criteria would label someone as a foreign adversary-controlled application? Well, it includes TikTok, its parent company, ByteDance, and any other entity controlled or owned by them. That makes sense. Also, any company controlled by a foreign advisory. That's going to impact a lot of companies. And then the drafters of this lovely legislation added this phrase. Perk up your ears. Any entity that is determined by the president to present a significant threat to national security of the United States. What? There's your Trojan horse, folks. The president, whoever that may be, can arbitrarily say any website, app, or application that meets the million user threshold is a foreign, adversary-controlled application. Anyone, Truth Social, Substack, X Twitter, Breitbart, BitChute, Rumble, anyone that exposes crimes, treason, election issues by our leaders could be labeled a foreign adversary and a threat to national security simply by posting their opinions online, even if those opinions are true. Isn't that interesting? This bill is specifically designed to threaten and shut down alternative media programs and platforms, in my opinion. And this new law is planned to take effect in September 2024, right before the United Nations Summit for the Future and right before the elections in November. Again, isn't that convenient? That UN treaty, by the way, is the one they hope will have all nations lay down their national sovereignty and surrender it to the United Nations. The Pact for the Future, which this ministry thinks may be the covenant with the many from Daniel 9:27, they're hoping will be passed at that summit. So, think about putting yourself in that world, in the world of what happens after that passes. Anyone that posts online that our leaders have sold out our national sovereignty to the UN might be labeled a foreign adversary for spreading disinformation and be silenced. It has that potential. And who these people are that are labeled that way doesn't have to be voted. Only the president can make that decision arbitrarily and unilaterally with no one else's advice or vote. The president will decide if you and your media platform are acting as foreign adversaries. Once he declares your favorite media platform a foreign adversary, they'll be fined $500 to $5,000 per user with no appeal process. From reading this bill, I've determined they've covered all the bases to make sure that any large platform, website, or app using the internet can be classified this way as a foreign adversary. And they don't need any kind of foreign code or any foreign source or foreign internet hosting service to do this. Just the president's signature. This threat alone, in my opinion, will likely shut down alternative media platforms, or at least silence them, and we will be left with only the official government narrative. That is why I'm doing this teaching now, so people are informed and have a chance to prepare themselves to receive alternative communication techniques. Which brings us to the Nelson Walters channel and what we're going to do about this. Over the last couple months, Craig Campbell of our video team, and you probably love a lot of the videos that he helps us with, well, he has a lot of experience with websites also, and he has been overhauling the Last Days Overcomer website. That's lastdaysovercomer.org. And he's been doing it for a very special purpose, to promote our next endeavor, Return of Jesus watch parties, which will take place on our secure platform where we assume we'll be able to say just about anything we need to say to keep you informed. These 1-hour watch parties will be held once, maybe twice a month, depending on what we can manage and afford, and will be absolutely free for our community. We will be inviting leading Christian experts to discuss the latest information with us on Israel, artificial intelligence, the United Nations plan, the Third Temple, etc., etc., etc. We will be able to talk about these subjects free from censorship, at least for a while, right up until the tribulation begins, which we're thinking might happen this fall, or maybe, possibly next year, and into the first years of the tribulation. Although the Last Days Overcomers aren't building a physical bunker for the tribulation. That's what unbelievers do, you know. We're not advising that. Instead, what we're planning to do is build a virtual bunker, at least for a while, to keep you informed about what's going on, prophecies that are being fulfilled, etc. One that you won't be able to get elsewhere because we think most ministries are going to be shut down. The first of these watch parties will probably start in June. If you subscribe to this channel, you'll be informed when these watch parties will start. But better yet, if you subscribe to our newsletter on Last Days Overcomers website, you will be informed via that site, which doesn't rely on a large social media company to give you your information. The link is down in the description, so I strongly suggest if you haven't subscribed to Last Days Overcomer newsletter, do so. It's free also. It's easy. I really think that within the year, it may be one of your only sources of information. If you think about it, every single person in the USA is going to be forced to pick a side. Freedom or tyranny. There will be no sitting on the fence or waiting to see how things turn out. And right now, all it costs you is a click of a button so that we can inform you when these watch parties take place. It's almost like an underground church, but on the internet. And if you haven't heard about that Summit for the Future we've been talking about, you may be wondering to yourself, what is Nelson talking about? Is it biblical? Does this truly match what the Bible says will happen in the end times? Because what the Bible says is what really matters, and we agree with you 100%. So click right here to keep watching and discover what we think the Pact for the Future that the United Nations is proposing is and why it fits with the biblical narrative, and why we should expect the tribulation in the fall or next year at the latest. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.